Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome, welcome. Yes, I am 2 minutes early because I'm so excited. Come on in the room, come on in the room. I appreciate you being here with us today. You are not going to You are not going to be disappointed at all. So come on in, say hi, let me know that you're here. Let me know that you're in the room. All right, let me double check my other devices. Yes. Hey, y'all. Hey. All right, welcome. When you come on in, go ahead and say hi. Let me know you're here, where you're joining from today. Hey, Julia. Hey, girl, thank you so much for joining. You are going to love. These are your hermanas. Yes, these are your hermanas. Very nice of you to join. Hey, thank you. Thank you. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to get out the way so we can really get to talking up in here. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Tanya Bain, and I am the host of Talks with Tanya, your most liked digital news, information, and talk show, where we talk about what's on your mind. We interview guests of excellence, and I get to share my view with you. You will find me here on Talks with Tanya, on Facebook under Talks with Tanya, on Instagram. I'm not quite on Instagram yet. I've already signed up for the Instagram class. Okay, but coming soon, Instagram. You'll find me on Talks with Tanya, the podcast on Anchor FM. In addition to that, we are broadcasting live on Facebook. Talks with Tanya on Tanya Inspires. Thanks so much for joining me. Wherever you are, I need to get some comments. And I don't want to like, I want to love. I need some love. Come on, send me some love, some hearts. All right. If you are on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe to Tanya Inspires. Got some really amazing plans coming up for 2022, and I want to make sure that I get that information to you. You know that I firmly believe that our highest and grandest visions are possible in life if we only believe. All right, and that's a bit of a quote from Oprah, my favorite. And I really do believe that we need to use every tool at our disposal, every piece of wisdom that we've acquired over wherever we are in our journey, and all of those lessons, okay, all of the walks up the mountain, okay, all of the scrapes on our knees, uh, all of the individuals that may have passed through or elevated on, all of the books that we've read or lives that we've watched, all of that information that we have acquired in order to make a difference today. Not only in your own lives, but in others' lives as well. You do need to start with yourself. Let me repeat that. You do need to start with yourself. And you do need to remember your why. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I often need to remind myself that, the things that I want to accomplish for myself first and my family really begin with setting that intention. We talk about setting intentions and setting goals. Um, But then the important part about that is following through with what I'm going to call your soul guidance. All right. So that you can take the actions that are necessary. All right. In order to get to where it is that you want to go. You hear me say this all the time. No one is coming to save us. All right. And if, this great pause that still tries to continue hasn't taught you anything, you need to know that no one is coming to save us. That is up to you. And those possibilities begin to manifest after you take consistent action on your intentions. All right. You have to do the work. And when I'm saying that to you, I am saying that to myself. All right, I'll get up off the soapbox. So, I am really excited about today's guests. And it's not that I don't love the guests I've had before, but I'm going to tell you, I have been following these two ladies and the work that they do for quite a while, and I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed. I'm very hopeful as a result of what I see them accomplish and what I see them giving back as well. So I just want to share a little bit about information about the topic we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about logistics and transportation. And my last guest, Erica Neville, was talking to us about money, okay, where the money is. So just a little snippet about the logistics industry and the transportation industry. Um, the industry ranges between 8 trillion and 12 trillion. Yes, not stuttering. $1 trillion is an industry, okay, annually. And this is just in the United States. All right. So remember that when we're talking about logistics and transportation, we're talking about getting goods from one point to another. So it is a global industry, and these numbers are merely just the numbers in the United States. And in the US, it attributes for up to 10% of the annual GDP, okay, in the United States. All right. So I think that's a little bit of money. But the thing I like most about these ladies, and I am going to bring them on, what really touched me about DiAnna and Tristen are they are leading ladies in their industry, and what drives them, their why, is something that I want to start with. So here we go. I am going to bring up our guest. Welcome, Tristen
Thank you, Tanya.
and DiAnna. Welcome, welcome
Thank
to
you.
Talks with Tanya. How are you ladies feeling today?
Great. How are
Good.
you?
Good, good, good. So besides being beautiful, they're brilliant. They are brilliant. But we started talking about their why. And first, I want them to introduce themselves to you guys and, tell us a little bit about you and tell me about your why. Let's talk about that because I think that's, for me, one of the most important things. So go ahead, Tristan.
My name is Tristen Simmons. I am a mother and a wife. I'm also a freight broker and a small fleet owner. I've been in the transportation industry since 2009, and it's definitely become a passion for me. Speaking of a why, when we get to that, you will definitely see. But it is definitely my passion. I love helping others. I also consult and I teach in this space as well.
Awesome, awesome. So, Deanna, go ahead. Tell us about you.
So, my name is DiAnna Smith. I have been in the trucking industry since 2019, so not as long as my dear friend up there, Tristan. I also own a dispatch company as well, in the logistics space. And then I have quite a few other things going on as well. But tonight we are here to talk about trucking and logistics. So that's where we're going to keep it.
All right. Hello, you got a lot of hellos. Hey, Sheila. Oh my goodness, my sister trucker out there. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. Miss B, Tia, Shanette, Julia. Hey, welcome, welcome. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. All right, so let's talk about your why, Tristen. I saw a Facebook post today, as a matter of fact, where you talked and you just were very, very direct about why it is that you do what you do. Tell us about that.
So I won't go into the whole story of how I got started, but I did get started in the industry because of my father-in-law not making a lot of money. And as we went on, we had some failures. So we pretty much had to start over. But after I got my start over, I was working for the federal government. And my son, I have a son that has cerebral palsy. He's 13. So he would have to go to physical therapy like 3 times a week after he had a surgery. And I remember my boss saying to me one day, and she was pregnant. This was her first baby she was having. And she said, how much longer are you going to have to leave work early to take your son to therapy? And that was the day for me. That was the day I made a decision that, you know what, I'm going to go do my own thing. I'm going to, go full time with my business, and nobody's going to ever question me again as far as work is concerned about what I have to do with my son to give him a better life. So
Mhm.
I'm very passionate about this industry because it has definitely changed my life. It has afforded me the opportunity to have a surgery for my son that we probably wouldn't have been able to afford if I wasn't in the transportation industry. And so he is definitely my why. He is why I'm so passionate and why I love actually helping, especially women in this space.
Absolutely. That is beautiful. And before we get to DiAnna, I can relate to that. And I can relate to that from a different perspective, in that I have a special needs daughter as well. And that's what drove me. And I remember, DiAnna, you probably don't even know this. I, um, I was terminated for a short time, for about a day. And I'll never forget the reason that I was given is I was told I was not a manager for today's business. And it was because I had a great deal of difficulty when I had to do the job of asking that kind of question to an employee that I knew had a legitimate reason for, needing to miss work. And it was very hard for me. And no, I was not a manager that could do that easily. DiAnna and I worked together many, 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 many moons ago.
2006, 2005, 6, 7,
Yes, yes,
2005, 6, 7, 8.
yes.
Yeah.
And she was exceptional then. But I was telling her, I remember the day that she said that she was leaving, and I was like, one of my superstars going. But her reason was something that I could relate to, and it was part of her why. So tell us about yourself and your why.
So my why is really to help, or it's just really my family and my children. I am a wife. I've been married for 14 years, and for a long time it was just us. We've really been together for just about 20 years. Um, I think, his background, both of his parents are immigrants, and they have never really, the education wasn't there for his parents or mine, but they also never really worked for anyone. So his parents were both entrepreneurs. So he has always been in that space. And I, on the other hand, was conditioned to go to school, go to college, get your degree, work for a big company, which is what I did. Uh, I did all of that, work for a big company, have to ask for a vacation. You stay there for 30 years. You say that you stay there until you retire. You have to clock, punch a clock for 40 hours. If you're late, like, Tanya is saying, when I went back to work with Tanya, I was actually driving 2 hours a day each way. And although that was a choice I made, if I was 5 minutes late, it was, oh, you're getting written up or reprimanded. And that was something that I really didn't want to do. So I just figured that the corporate world really wasn't for me. Once I had my son, at 8 months, I pretty much resigned, and I had some other things going on business wise. So that was my time for retirement, basically. So that was in 2012. He was 8 months old. Um, and I just, at this point in my life, I prefer for my kids to actually see me and my husband actually go out there and get out there and do it, so that they can not really be conditioned as I was, to actually work for someone else. Because you can work for other people and make them all of this money, but then when you retire, reality is, at this point, when we retire, there's not going to be much in Social Security or whatever for us. So I just want to be able to show them that there's another way, to be able to get out there and make the money and be able to be successful.
Absolutely. I love that. And that's the same story that I hear. And for our listening audience, how many of you can relate to that? Okay. How many of you can relate to being in that position? I know that I can. I know that I can. Hi, Wanda. Thanks so much for joining. Wanda
Hi,
Williams is
Wanda.
on. Yes, yes, yes. And Sheila,
I see
Sheila
Miss Baggett
B.
too.
Yes. Yeah, I had to make sure that I let them know, okay, that you were going to be on board. But that is so important. How many of you out in the audience, go ahead and drop me a message in the comment and let me know. Have you ever been in that position? And we have Lisa Cashwell Humphrey in the house
Hey,
as
Lisa.
well. Yes, thank you guys for coming through. Yes. But yeah, I need to see some comments. I need to know, have you felt that way before? Yes. Julia said COVID gave her a different outlook on life. Ooh, that is an understatement. An understatement. Okay. I know that Lisa and Wanda can relate to having to, reprimand and pull people aside who had, really legitimate reasons for, being a little bit late or having to have some time off. All right. Thank you, Carolyn. Same there. Yes, yes. My cousin Carolyn. Hey, girl. Thanks so much for joining. Cheryl, I mean, look, the comments are coming in. Yes, I can relate. The question, Rebecca, was that how many of you felt, and I know you have, felt like really not being comfortable at work because of the conditions that were there. Absolutely. Okay, we got some shout outs from DiAnna, from Wanda. Yes. From Sheila, go die.
Thank
Yes.
you,
Let
lady.
me tell you, she made a great, we love her so. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. But this is encouragement. Okay, this is encouragement. And I know that's what you ladies do. Not only do you work the business, but you also take time, okay, to mentor and to share that information. So, Tristen or DiAnna, can you tell me um, what it is that on a daily basis, okay, in terms of the industry, what is it that you do, so our audience can have an understanding of the work that you do?
Go, Tristan.
Okay. So So I actually have the trucking company and the brokerage. My main role is the broker. So I own the brokerage. I have a few agents that work with me. We go after customers that have freight that needs to be shipped somewhere. And we work with them to get the freight moved by contracting it out to carriers. So for example, DiAnna's company is a carrier company. I could put freight on her truck that came from my shipper. And so I actually don't even have to own trucks at all being a broker. I'm like the middleman. So I get the freight and I contract it out to a carrier. And my husband and I also own a towing company. So we're just completely involved in transportation.
Wow, that is amazing. DiAnna, tell me a little bit about what your day is like.
Tristan is like so humble.
I know.
She's so humble in what she does. My daily, which honestly she just explained. So as far as getting freight or booking freight for my trucks, it would actually be me or my husband actually contacting, or for that matter, I mentioned that like there's another side in between like the carrier and the broker, which is also dispatchers. So you can have a dispatcher as well book freight from a broker for your trucks to keep them moving. So that's pretty much how the logistics side works. So daily, we're booking loads for our trucks to actually move throughout all 48 states, and they're picking up from shippers, and then they're delivering to the receivers. So that's daily. But then on the flip side of that, I also do literally all of the back end work. So I have to do payroll. I have to keep up with compliance, which you can contract that out, but I do it myself. I basically am a complete HR myself. So I do literally everything. So I handle the drivers. I do interviews. Write them up if they're late or whatever. Like right now, one of my drivers will be one of his. He has 4 kids. One of them is autistic, and it's a little bit hard for the mother to take care of him. And as my driver, he's normally out for 3 to 4 weeks at a time, at which I understand because he's saying that he needs to be home more often because she can't handle him as much. So, and I understand, I mean, he has a family. So, this coming week will actually be his last week with us. So now, as holiday season comes up, we actually have to find another replacement driver for that truck. So that he can actually do something local. He might not make as much money, but he's making a conscious effort to be there more for his kids. So,
Mhm.
yeah, right now it's like hiring time for me.
Okay, busy time, busy time. So, what made you, Tristan? You tell us your story, but DiAnna, your your husband's family was in the trucking business. What is it that kind of led you down that path?
They were not. I was just saying that they are immigrants, right? They're
Uh-huh.
not from the country, so they were self-employed. They always were in like an entrepreneurial realm, is what I was saying. Not trucking at all, but just
Okay.
different things. What led us into trucking was just kind of hearing and looking and researching. We were interested, and then I guess in 2018, I actually came across he's a friend now. He actually had a course, which is a good energy worldwide. It's a trucking course. So we actually bought that course, not knowing anything about him. And we were actually the first people to buy his course. I took the course, and my husband, we took it together. And then after that, it pretty much gave us A to Z what we need to start a trucking company, um, you know, and to like to go forward. So that's what we did. And then in 2019 is actually when we hit the ground running. So we did everything, all the startup, and got the first truck and then hired a driver. And then we were like off and running by June of 2019.
Wow, amazing. And some of the audience don't know, but I was also um, in the trucking business. And it was, I didn't know anything either. Um, my husband at the time he was a truck driver. He was working for someone else. And he was, smart enough to know that there was a better way to do things, and I was just like, okay.
Mhm.
It was baptism by fire, but it was very successful. And the two of you ladies were talking about something that's critical. I didn't take a course, okay? Or the course that I took was not the one I felt like I should have taken. Tell me a little bit about what it is that you can share in order to get other people interested. Yep. Yes, it was. It was somebody remembers. Gotta run trucking. That was the name of the business. Gotta run.
Well, it's a lot of money in trucking, but what you just said about the course, you have to take courses. You have to connect to people that's already having a success. Because when I started, after 2.5 years, we were going out of business and we had to start all over. So I actually met DiAnna through that course. That's how I learned of her. And I noticed that she would, help other people in the course answer questions. But then she was also so quiet. I'm like, she's really smart. When she does speak, she knows her stuff, but she's so quiet. So it made me want to inquire more about her. So I reached out to her and we started talking. And because I teach people how to become a broker. I also have an organization called the Leading Ladies of Logistics. And the purpose of that group is to basically help women become educated in the space and find the best resources to be successful in their business. So I asked DiAnna to come on as one of the mentors because I know she hadn't been in trucking for a long time, but I could tell she was a businesswoman. And like I said, she was just very knowledgeable. So what I can share is that if they're interested in the business, it's a great business. You can make a whole lot of money. But if you're not educated, if you don't invest in yourself, as you said, you can lose a lot of money, because I've personally lost a lot of money in the industry.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. DiAnna, so what skills, all right, do you need in order to be in that business? I know we need the training. I know sometimes, some of the ladies that I speak with are like, well, I've never done that. And I always talk about transferable skills. So what kind of skills do you need to bring to the table to help you in being successful?
I think you have to be organized um, and have a great filing system, because in this industry, you can actually be audited at any time. And so, with that said, you have to be able to pull whatever it is that they're asking for no matter how long ago it's been. You have to know where to locate it, and you have to be able to provide it to them. Because if you do not provide it to them when they ask for it, you can be put out of service.
Mm.
So then, Tristen talks about losing a lot of money, as did you, Tanya. But I mean, when you put out a service and your trucks aren't moving, those payments and insurance payments, truck payments, trailer payments, things like that are still coming up. So you still have to have, you have to be financially fit is another thing, and be smart with your money as well, so that when things like that do happen, you're able to still sustain in the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing would also be for me, I am quiet, but I'm like highly analytical. So, like, um, my husband always says, like, he could be like, he could finance a lot of things, but without me being in like the backbone, like nothing would actually happen, because I really keep everything going. And so I think that you have to just, one, be organized, and then also pay attention to detail. I'm highly detailed. I'm almost like OCD with it. So it just fits for me, because I'm able to like just keep everything organized and be able to keep everything rolling. And that's in the different businesses that we have.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Tristen, do you teach this in the courses that you give? I was on your Instagram page and I looked at some of the courses there. Is that included in
So
some of that?
So I actually teach the broker side of things. I don't
Okay.
teach you how to start a trucking company. I do consult on that, because when I first started in the consulting space, that's basically what I did. I would set up trucking companies for people. But now I've mastered the art of brokering. I've been very successful with it, and I've helped some other people be successful. So that's what I actually teach. The course that I mentioned that I met DiAnna through, the Good Energy course, even though I teach in the broker space and I had been in the industry since '09, I actually signed up for that same course. That's how like I said, that's how I was familiar with her. And it's a step-by-step blueprint to starting a trucking company. Now, if you wanted to do the brokerage, I could show you that with my eyes closed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're so modest because I know I read somewhere that you trained over you and your partner Samantha Smith trained
Right.
over 2,000
That's correct.
individuals.
And that's a combination of our in-person course as well as the online course. But yes, we're over 2,000 now.
Okay. And when people come to you, all right, so I have a little idea because of baptism by fire. But where is it that they can start, if they have an interest in looking at the business?
It depends on what skill set they have, because if they're brand new to the industry, I always recommend that they start with dispatching. Now,
Mhm.
someone that actually wants to go out and buy a truck that's willing to learn that business, they're going to learn dispatching in that as well, because you have to dispatch your truck. And most people with one truck will probably start out that way. But I do recommend people understand dispatching because it's like the gateway to the entry. I mean, to the industry. You learn the terminology, the different types of equipment. So that's a good place to start before even spending a lot of money to start a trucking company or a brokerage.
Mhm. And so, what is dispatching? I think of a taxi cab company dispatching.
That's very true. It can go both ways. Essentially, it's the same thing. So that dispatcher is basically an intermediary, right, in between you being the passenger and that driver, right? So it's the same thing then between a carrier being the trucking company owner, right, and the broker being Tristen. So it would be a dispatcher. So essentially, if the trucking company or the carrier doesn't really care to do it themselves, they can then hire a dispatcher to do it because they want to be a little bit more hands off. So that means that the dispatcher pretty much handles the driver and the load that they're on. So they actually man and manage that load from start to finish. So that, if there's a problem, like everyone is communicating with the dispatcher, not the owner, if
Right.
that
Mhm.
makes sense.
Yes. So for the many of us and the folks out there that are currently sitting in somebody's call center dispatching and troubleshooting for someone else, so they would actually have a similar skill set to bring to the table, and could utilize that experience and looking at something to do for themselves. Does that sound right?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Okay.
But I think that Tris and I would both say that when it's an asset-based broker or an asset-based dispatcher, they fully understand the needs of a carrier.
Right.
Whereas though a dispatcher that is not asset-based and does not have a trucking company themselves, they don't truly understand like the break-even numbers that that carrier needs to have in order for that truck to be moving. And so it's
Mhm.
very important that anyone can dispatch, yes, but that person that is not asset based is not truly going to understand the needs of that carrier and what it takes for them to operate that business.
Okay.
And the biggest thing is communication. I think with any type of dispatching job, just comparing it from me dispatching for my tow trucks versus a trucking company, it's the information. Like if I'm the dispatcher and I'm passing that information along to a driver, I want to make sure that they have all the details that's out there so that they're not missing something or that they don't go to the wrong place or pick up the wrong equipment or material. So if just because someone is a dispatcher, I mean, that doesn't mean they're great, but I feel like to dispatch, you should definitely pay attention to details and be able to communicate information very well. So those are two things that I think would work in any line of dispatching. But it trucking, you really have to understand the terminology. It's a lot to it, and speak as a dispatcher speaking to a broker, you should ask a lot of questions, and they're going to pass along a lot of information. So
Mhm. Mhm. But there are similarities. I was trying to make the point, and this is the same thing. I see so many similarities in the places that so many of us have sat, and some of my audience is still sitting. Okay, where they are doing that, they're doing the troubleshooting. They're being held accountable for passing that information on to the customer. They're being educated, but they're only earning this much.
right.
Okay. So the better prepared you are to take the skill that you have now and leverage it, all right, and get the education, I see it as an opportunity for you to look at the business.
Oh,
Okay.
definitely.
Yeah, look at the business. So, in terms of the other thing I think about in terms of transport and logistics, well, what's the difference between transport and logistics?
So when you're talking about transportation or like ground transportation, you're literally just talking about those trucks, making sure that the products get from point A to point B. When you're dealing in logistics, there's so many moving pieces to that. It could be just the middleman brokering between the shipper and the carrier, or it could be warehousing, all these value added services that a logistics provider can provide to their customers. So it's more to it than just the trucking piece. It could be, the drayage, getting the freight from the port to warehouses, and then getting coordinating the pickup from the warehouse to an actual shipper. It's just so many different moving parts in logistics.
So, do those different moving parts then translate to opportunities?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm a domestic truckload broker. So that means in the United States is where I move freight. Recently, I've gotten into the drayage space where now I'm actually moving freight from out of the ports in Charleston. So that was a separate maybe area, I guess I should say, from what I was used to doing, but also a whole lot of money and a lot of opportunity. But someone could say, I want to own a warehouse, or I want to be a freight forwarder, or I want to do import export. It's a lot of different moving pieces to it. It's more on a global or international level, but definitely opportunity.
Definitely. Well, I know my stuff is not getting to me from the port. I can tell you. I mean, we
It's
hear it on
rough
the
right
news.
now.
There's a lot
It's
of stuff on
coming.
the port.
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. Eventually, it'll get
Eventually.
Eventually,
there.
it's
It'll get to you.
coming. So, would that be another opportunity, considering that there's a backlog, in getting things to the folks?
Well, definitely getting a CDL. I mean, we always need more drivers. That's a main thing. People don't really see as many women drivers, but now you're starting to see more women jump into the driver's seat. So you could get the CDL and you could drive, or you could dispatch as a broker. Our main thing is to help solve problems. So we're actually working with those customers to figure out how to help get that freight out of the port and everywhere else. So just opportunity all around.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. DiAnna, what about the challenges? What do you see as the challenges for someone starting?
Um, I mean, your challenge is going to start if you're not organized. That's number one. If you're organized, it's easy. When I had my audit, it was easy because I knew where everything was and I had an amazing filing system. You know what I mean? So it's just, you know, I think that a lot of us can bring more challenges, and make things harder upon ourselves. You know what I mean? So sometimes we have to take responsibility upon our own actions. And if we're not proactive, then, things just aren't going to go so well. Um, a challenge within trucking, though, the main challenge is actually being able to hire and also retain drivers. And as Tristen said, there's a major shortage of drivers right now, which is why a lot of stuff is actually sitting at those ports right now. So I think that just um, having a good culture within your company, knowing how to actually treat employees and treat them as part of a team and not really talk down to them, and actually get to know them and what these guys are away from their families for 3 to 4 weeks at a time. And honestly, some of them longer, so they're in the truck, they're by themselves. And so sometimes they just need somebody to talk to or whatever. And they actually want to feel as though they're more than just a number. So they want to feel as though you actually know them and you actually want to know them and get to know their family and things like that. So, for us, if they're doing like a reset because they can only drive, let's just say, I believe it's 70 hours for the week, and they have to do a 34-hour reset. So sometimes when they're sitting in that truck for 34 hours, like, it's easy to send them Uber Eats or something like that. It's like just little things go a long way to actually make those drivers feel as though, they're more than just a number, and that they're actually part of a family culture within your company. So that's a big thing for me. And that's a long way for driver retention.
Definitely. I actually changed my company to fit my drivers. They have children and families, and they wanted to be more local. So, we used to run over the road trucking, but now we do drayage, which is the short runs from the port. And I did that just specifically to be able to keep the drivers because they wanted to stay with us, but to also make it work for them and their family. So that's definitely an important part of what she's saying is the way that companies treat their drivers determines if they will stay with you. But because there's a shortage, it's just hard to get drivers right now. So whatever you can do to keep them, within reason, is what a company owner should be doing.
Yes, yes. One of our viewers is a
Oh,
driver.
awesome. Exactly. She said we are people too. That's right.
Absolutely.
I mean, the most important. I say in this industry, the driver is the most important because if we don't have them, how are we getting the freight moved from where it needs to be? So I think, thank you. I can't say her name, but
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And she said, wow, that's magnificent. So that's just confirmation, okay, that, what you ladies are focused on, is going to make a difference. We had a question from Julia, and I know that she is in the trucking business. I forget what, but her question is, what's the difference between a freight agent, a freight forwarder, and a freight broker?
so the freight agent actually works under a brokerage. So that means they work under the freight broker. They don't have to have an authority, which is something we have to have an operating authority to be a legal broker in the United States. We also have to have a surety bond. So and we are financially responsible. So like DiAnna mentioned, those audits, we have legal requirements as a broker, and you can be audited as well. At any moment, they can ask you for documents from a particular shipment because maybe it was an accident or theft or a lawsuit or something that came about, and you have to be able to put your hands on those records. So the broker is responsible for all of that. The agent actually does the same thing as a broker as far as the day-to-day operations. They go out and they get shippers. They look for shippers that have freight that needs to be moved, and then they contract it out to a motor carrier. But they're just doing it under someone else's brokerage instead of having their own. And then most agents, I will say most because if you're actually a freight agent, most of the time you're working under a broker as an independent contractor versus an employee. If you see people kind of acting in that role, they're more so of a salesperson for like some of the larger brokerages. But yeah, the freight agent, you can still have your own business, but you're contracting your services to another broker and you're getting a commission on a profit of those loads. And then the forwarder, they kind of do some of what the broker does, but they actually a lot of times have their own warehouse, or they may rent space in a warehouse where they consolidate shipments or break them down and they put them on trucks and get them moved. So it's a little more than third party logistics. I kind of call it like 4PL. They're doing like a couple extra steps.
Wow. I'm like, what? All right, great question, great answer, really good insight. We have a question from Sheila. How is automation going to play into the equation for trucking? Yes, for your industry.
Do you want me to answer it?
Go ahead.
um, okay, there's a big thing about what is the trucks that drive on them
Autonomous trucks, yeah.
themselves. You know what I mean? Essentially, just like Tesla, right? So Elon Musk or whatever is coming out with these trucks, which is taking a long time for them to come out, but they're really going to be really expensive as well. So for carriers, they definitely are going to have to be on the waiting list to get them, and they have to be prepared. But just like those, what do you call the electric cars now?
Mm-hmm.
You know, they only get like 250 miles, right? To a full battery. Well, the trucks are running off of 3 and 4 batteries, right? So for a truck driver that's normally used to driving 700, 650 to 750 miles a day, which they do, to have to stop and charge their batteries, 3 or 4 of them, it's not going to be beneficial really for the shippers and the receivers to get their goods moved on time. So I do still think that there'll definitely be a need for actual person driver and person contact. I mean, there's automation now, like in Target and things like that with self checkouts. But reality is, you still see people in those regular checkout lines because some people choose not to deal with them, and some people, it's just easier for them to have person to person contact and not always with a machine. So that's just my outlook on it. I think that there will always still be regular trucks and there will always be regular conventional truck drivers. And honestly, that's going to be more efficient, unless they really perfect having the charging stations and things like that. But that's going to take years for them to do. I mean, honestly, like you don't really see many electric truck driving. I mean, electric, you can see them at Walgreens and things like that now, but it's not many. And so if you say how many trucks are on the road, I don't think that it's ever going to really truly replace the market.
Mm-mm.
I
We
agree.
can't get enough drivers now. Yeah, exactly. Self-driving trucks. Really amazing. On top of all the other regulations that we have to meet, not logical. Yeah, that's a really good point. There's probably an arena for it, but
Right.
that it's going to take over the business. Okay. Um, I believe, like, I want my stuff and I want it from a driver and I want to talk to people. And that's just how we are. That's just how we are built. And I think that's important to, in the industry. So what all right, so let's say for a person like myself, okay? I'm looking to see what the opportunity might be for me in the industry. So I have this much knowledge, okay? What's the best way to get started in understanding and looking at, the opportunity?
Research, to really figure out where you fit best.
Hmm.
That could be dispatching. I've trained a lot of brokers and they didn't want to start with dispatching. They wanted to get straight into brokering because they had that skill set. Like they didn't mind cold calling customers or knocking on doors or sending emails and soliciting their services to that company. So they weren't afraid of rejection. They're like, look, I'm gonna go out here and get it. I don't need to dispatch. I want to be a broker. That's what I want to do. So just doing the research to find out what each job or position is and what you think you would fit best. And
Hmm.
then start networking. That's another big thing, connecting with people that's already in the space. It's so much stuff online. Like if you want to start any kind of business, you can go to Instagram, Facebook, and find people that's doing it already and follow those people. So just getting educated and definitely, like I said, doing research and connecting with people.
Okay. We have another question. Hey, Ronald. Hi, ladies. Hi, Tanya. Quick question. What would you recommend as the best route for a carrier to find funding to grow a fleet?
And it is my opinion that if you have to actually find funding to grow a fleet, meaning that you already have a few trucks or whatever, that is probably not the best time to grow it if you have to actually go and find the funding. That's
I
just
have
my
to
opinion.
agree. No, I have to agree. Accounting is a big thing. That's something that I did not have in place in 2009 when I first started. I thought I could do it myself. I kept all my own books and I just went to a regular tax preparer to do my taxes, and I still ended up owing a lot of money. You need a good accountant because they will help you grow and scale and tell you when it's
When
time to go ahead and get that second truck or that third truck. So I wouldn't say even worry about the funding. Worry about knowing your numbers, understanding, what your break even point is and what you need to be in profit, and work directly with your accountant, someone that specializes in trucking, that will tell you, hey, it's time, you can get another truck.
Hmm.
and also right now, again, my opinion is not the best time to grow because truck prices. August of 2020, I paid 42,000 for a truck. That same truck right now is going for about 85 to 90,000. And so it's not advantageous and it's not smart right now to actually grow because you're almost paying for one truck right now. You're paying really the cost of three,
Exactly. I bought a
and
truck last
it's not
month
smart.
for 80 grand. And this month, for the second truck, luckily I ordered the second truck before, but I went to go in for a third tow truck, and it's $100,000. 1 month difference. It's $20,000 difference. So
Wow.
it's difficult now. It's definitely not a good time to buy a truck.
Hmm. So that's being able, that's the experience coming in there.
But then
Yes.
you can also start the other way. So you can look into doing dispatching so that you can learn the ropes, and then growing to brokering before actually becoming an actual carrier and buying trucks. There are people that have companies, and Tristan actually had one at the conference last week, that he actually just solely leases out trailers. There's a need for trailers and there's a shortage of trailers. So if you can find them and you have a yard to house them, then you can rent out and lease out trailers to carriers, because reality is a trailer right now is 40 grand, and maybe someone doesn't want to finance for a trailer for 40 grand, but they can pay $500-600 a month to actually lease it. And at least at that point, some of them you have new equipment, but then some are used and older, but it still allows you to actually not do a power only, which is just you just only have the truck and not the trailer, and you have to look for different types of loads. But it allows you to be able to move faster. Like Tristan also mentioned, like that she's doing port work in Charleston. But then that chassis that is carrying those containers, there's also a need for those chassis because people aren't returning them back to the ports, right?
Exactly.
So
We
again,
we
if
hold
you can,
on to them for as long as possible until
yeah.
we get that notification that says it needs to be back for that inspection. Definitely.
Yeah, so there's different parts. Like people have a business for trucking only, and they're just solely a business accountant, a trucking accountant, or it could be like just everything is trucking. So trucking compliance, they actually do everything back in office that someone doesn't want to deal with as a carrier. So there's other ways to entry before you actually become an asset base.
Okay. That's really good information. You
That's
know,
something that we did at the conference. Not to cut you off, Tanya, but
yes.
just DiAnna mentioned the conference. That's the exact reason why we had so many different types of companies, so that people could see you don't have to buy a truck or own a warehouse to come into this industry, or even be a man, because I say that all the time. People think like this is a man's industry, but there's so many women behind the scenes. They're the accountants, the admin, the compliance, the safety officers. They're doing brokering, owning warehouses, doing air cargo. It's so much to it. So going to a conference that's for transportation logistics is helpful, because people get to see, oh, I don't just have to dispatch, or I don't just have to be a broker. There's so many other opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
Those are just the most common. You constantly hear people say, oh, I want to be a dispatcher, I want to be a broker, or I want to buy a truck. But I mean, you can do import export, more on the logistics, like a global logistics side. Like I said, you can own a warehouse. It's so many. You can teach. Some people have been in the industry and they want to transition out, but teaching is something that's needed as well, especially if you have the experience.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I listened on your Instagram, Tristan, to some of the comments of the folks that were at the conference and what people were doing, and the um, questions that they had, and the advice that was being given was just so rich. So how do folks get connected? How do folks get connected with you, and figure out what's going, do the research, and get your help to figure out what's next for them?
So, women, we have a group on Facebook called Leading Ladies of Logistics. And that's where people come in, especially when they're getting started, and ask questions based on other people's opinions of where, maybe where do you think I should start? Or, they just ask questions about the industry in general. And then taking the courses, like we have a course, again, my partner Samantha and I, it's called the Freight Broker Portal, at Freight Broker Portal online, on Instagram. And then that's the website as well, freightbrokerportal.com. And that's for someone that wants to become a broker. The classes for trucking and dispatching, I recommend the friend that DiAnna was speaking of, the Good Energy. Those are the courses that I recommend for dispatching and brokering. I mean, dispatching, and if you wanted to buy a truck, because the education piece is what's going to save you from losing a lot of money, like I did, or going out of business.
Mm-hmm.
And that course for the dispatching and actually the trucking portal is actually goodenergyworldwide.com. You're able to find those two courses there.
Worldwide.com. I'm loving this. All right, let me get that information right in there in the chat. Shout out, thanks, Ron. He
Hold
said,
on, hold on. It's Good Energy Worldwide.
oh, what I do?
Energy
Energy.
Worldwide.
Okay, wait a minute. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Wait a moment. Try again. I'm just going to put a note in here. Good Energy
There you go.
Worldwide.com. goodenergyworldwide.com. Okay, excellent. Ron was giving his wife Julie a shout out. Good job, Ron. She's the dispatcher, does all the paperwork, okay, and is the backbone. I think you guys could really benefit and have an opportunity to really take a look at kind of what's next and what kind of moves that you would want to make, towards the future. Good. This is great. All right. Any more questions that I didn't? Ah, yeah. In addition to the cost for the truck, okay, the wait for semi trucks is very long. She waited 11 months for a truck, and still waiting 6 months for a trailer. Okay.
And trust me, we know because people constantly ask us, like, where can I get a truck? That's one of the questions I get most, even though I don't even really teach about, starting a trucking company. People constantly call us asking that question. Why is it taking so long? So it's been like that.
And when they do come into the dealerships, it's like they're going like hotcakes. And to be honest, just like in real estate, like a cash buyer is gold right now. You know what I'm saying? Like they're going to get them before a conventional finance, and just simply because they're cashing out.
That's
You
right.
know, so but it is definitely a wait. Just like the lady said, it's definitely a wait for trucks, trailers as well. I waited. I just got 2022 trailers, and the wait for those was, it started off as 3 months and it went to 6 months. So I mean, we waited a good like 7 or 8 months, honestly, for those trailers to come in. And it just is what it is. Materials and everything is backed up, and a lot of that material is probably sitting at the port, honestly. And manufacturers, even for cars, like you go to car lots, there's no cars on the lots right now. And if there are, you're paying a premium for them, and it just is what it is. So it's just, hopefully once the pandemic is actually finally over, we'll be able to recover and get things moving as they used to be.
But in the meantime, this sounds like a great opportunity for folks to start doing the research and getting their feet wet with, getting it together to do what they need to do and
And making sure your
decide.
credit is good too, because you definitely your credit needs to be in order. Absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh, yes.
Even to get, to become a broker, your credit has to be in order. So it's important to make sure that your credit and your finances are in order.
Definitely.
And I saw when I looked at the leading ladies, you have really a wealth of experts that are included in the leading ladies. Tell us a little bit about, what kind of resources that you have on your team there.
So we're still new. I came up with the idea of leading ladies, I think back in the late 2016, beginning of 2017, and that's when I kind of put it online and I started connecting with other women in the industry. So within our mentorship program, which we're kind of starting, getting that up and running, we have people like DiAnna, who's a carrier. She owns the trucking company as well as other businesses. So overall, we have business women. One of the ladies, she's into import export, anything dealing with international and global supply chain. She is definitely the person. Like, she can answer those questions and connect you to the right people. We actually have some freight agents. We have a few dispatchers. A few of them are brokers. Some of them actually own compliance and back office type companies, and they teach people to get into that space also. So it's a good mixture. It's a mixture of women that have, different unique skill sets, but they are just shown to be leaders in the industry. They've shown that they can and they are willing to help other people, and that's why we chose them.
Mm-hmm. Yes, yes, yes. Another question. Why are broker carrier rates so low now? Is it seasonal?
This is the thing. I hear that all the time. But as a broker, I will say that brokers are getting paid. As a carrier, you need to know your numbers and you need to know what you're going to accept and what you're not going to accept. Brokers are making money. I'm not saying that we don't take a loss sometimes, because we do. But it's important in my role as a broker to educate my shipper on what's going on in the market, what's going on in the industry if he doesn't know, what's going on in the economy, and what things affect the rates. So when my carriers need more money, and I'm going to my customer and I'm like, I need more money. When he asks me why, I'm able to explain to him why I need to pay them more money. What the market average is right now. What's going on? Fuel being high, long wait times at shippers because of low manpower, whatever the case may be. As a broker, I'm supposed to also educate my shipper and make sure he understands why I am asking him for more money. Because of those types of relationships, I've been able to get pretty fair rates from my carriers. So I cannot answer that question for all brokers, but I will say some are just cheap. Some brokers sit behind a desk and make high 6 and 7 figures, but I'm not that broker. I go out in the field. I go see my customers' operations. I'm able to call them by first name, even the owners of some of these companies I have relationships with. So, Julia, I get it, but it's not all of us. And of course, seasons do affect rates as well, because that's why she asked that question too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But right now
Season.
we're moving into the holiday season, so this is about to be definitely
Hey,
one of the hottest seasons. It's a peak season, absolutely. And again, there's so much back. I mean, you can go into the grocery store and see that there's the shelves are still bare, and so hopefully that freight is able to be moved, but we have to have the drivers in place, and you know, it just is a it's just a moving train, like everything has to be in place. And if the drivers aren't there, or if stuff is, stuck at the port and there's like a backup on the ships, then it's just hard to get the freight moved.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This has been so amazing. We could probably interview you for another hour, but I want to respect your time. She said, oh, Julia said, I wish all brokers were like you.
well, you
I'm
know what?
sure they
I want to
do.
say something to that. I was not always this way. I started out as a freight agent. And when I started, I was only concerned about getting money. So whatever shipper was going to give me the freight and I could make money and I could make the most as possible, that's exactly what I did. But I also learned the hard way. And that's why I teach brokers to be fair. Make sure you're pricing the lanes fairly. Make sure you're giving the customer an accurate quote, and you're paying the carrier fairly. And, it really made me realize that as a carrier myself, I know what I needed for my truck. So I had to put myself in those shoes as a broker to say, you know what? I know fuel is expensive. I know how hard it is to keep a good driver. So I need to pay this carrier what they deserve for this load. And if I have to fight back and forth with my shipper, then I'll do that. Or I'll just drop that shipper and go find another one.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Um, how can you find what the rates are as carriers?
So those are the traditional way is load boards. So that the most common two are going to be truck stop and DAT.
Mm-hmm.
However, you also then have the option to build relationships with brokers directly. Um, you can build a relationship with the broker directly to get freight that way, or honestly, you can, as a true carrier, you can actually bypass the broker and go directly to the shipper. But that's a lot more legwork for you to do, and then you just are working on a contract directly with the shipper. But the rates for you to start off more so, I would say the load boards, which the most popular two are truck stop and that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important to do what she mentioned about building a relationship offline, because about 80% of the freight doesn't even make it to a load board. As a broker, when I get a new lane from my customer, I'm actually reaching out to my network first before I even put it on a load board. I may even put it on Instagram before I put it on a load board because I actually know some of those carriers that follow me, and they move freight for me before. So I'm giving my people that I work with first choice, or I'm sending out email blasts to all of the carriers that's registered with me. So as a new carrier, it is very important to build relationships outside of a load board. If every day you're spending trying to find all your loads on the load board, you're really not being successful. So what she said, that's very important.
Mm-hmm. This is great information. Oh my goodness. I'm like over here. I remember load boards. Okay. Any other questions from the audience? This has been wonderful. I have their contact information that's playing on the bottom of the stream. Ladies, I am going to oh, wait a second. One other question. Okay, Ron, because I like you. Do you ladies broker hot shot loads?
Sometimes. I have a few customers in South Carolina with hot shot loads, and I do move a lot of empty containers out of Savannah and out of Charleston to North Carolina. So I don't have a lot of hot shot loads, but I do have them. But it's just in the southeast region.
Okay, excellent. Julia put her Gmail right there in the group. Thank you. So, ladies, I'm going to ask you for some closing words, something important that you would want our audience to know. Tristen,
Oh, put me on the spot.
that's what I do.
Well, what I want to say is, especially to women, to mothers of special needs children, I'm proof that you can do whatever you want to do. Don't let those things stop you. I went out there and made sure I had the best support system, which some of it includes my family, my immediate family. But I got a great caretaker for my son. He's able to see me and watch me work. He tells people all the time that when he grows up, he's going to own a trucking company, and what he does already does. But you can do it if you want to do it. Don't make excuses and find a way. For me to have a child that's in a wheelchair, I do a lot as a businesswoman, and I go out there and get it. And so I'm just proof that you can do it.
Absolutely. Thank you, DiAnna.
I would just say to create the life that you want to live. Um, and I say that strongly understanding that there will always be worker bees, and that's completely okay. But then, without risk, there's no reward, right? So I just say that if you're willing to take the risk in any business opportunity, whether it's trucking, logistics, transportation, or whatever, get out there and take the chance because you don't know if you're going to fail until you do it. And if you fail, that's okay. Like, get up and do it again. I mean, we failed at several businesses, and that's okay. But what made me stronger and resilient is knowing that, I can still get up there and I'm educated enough to get out there and still to do something else and go a different way and transition. It's always good to pivot. So if you find out that something's not working, then pivot before you go bankrupt and find another way. But again, for me, and it's okay to work and retire and things like that, but I just truly believe that really doesn't afford us the same lifestyle that we actually truly deserve and that we really want. And so until you actually get the willpower to get out there yourself and do it, I just think that everybody can make it happen on their own. You just have to try different things and find out what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed.
Absolutely. Y'all was preaching. I appreciate you so much, ladies. All right, folks. And something else to consider, even if it's not just you personally that, wants to know the business, everybody knows somebody, okay, that could use, I want to call, people used to, pull my coattail, okay, and put this information out there. There are opportunities. You don't have to do things the same way. You've got to put the work out there, but share the information because you never know. You never know. I mean, I can think of, people in my family, my own family, that need to be considering some of the options. And this is an awesome option. And I can't wait to jump in and get started and pick up on my research and see where this other, and we all need another stream of income. Hello.
Definitely.
We do.
Definitely.
Okay,
And
this is multiple streams of income. DiAnna, why don't you tell us, well, while I'm saying that, what other kind of businesses do you have, darling?
I'm a realtor in Florida.
Luxury realtor.
Yeah, I'm a luxury realtor in Florida. My next deal is actually closing in the beginning of December is actually for 2.9 million. So that's pretty exciting. I actually, my husband and I own a luxury and exotic car rental service here in Miami, Florida as well, which that's scrolling at the bottom of the screen, the Lux by Ingenious. And again, that comes with high risk, high reward as well. We scaled that to 8 cars since April, and we've lost 2 since then. So now we're down to 6, but it's pretty lucrative. But again, it's also risk and reward in that. And actually, Tanya, to go back from when I left working with you and Wanda and Lisa, we actually started doing importing and exporting and manufacturing products in China. And we actually sold them on Amazon. So, really, primarily, that was our main source of income. And that's what allowed me to leave my job when my son was 8 months old. And we did that for 10 or 11 years. And I mentioned pivoting. So, Amazon became very competitive, and we decided that it was time to pivot. And that's actually what turned us onto trucking, because we were trying to actually take Amazon, which is afforded us a very nice lifestyle, but we were actually trying to take that from being our primary source of income and actually pivot and make something else our primary source of income. So that was a way that we actually learned to kind of cut losses as we saw that it was becoming very competitive and expensive, and we were taking losses there to transition into something else. So I just say, and I'm a firm believer of just getting out there and doing it, no matter who in your family and your friends don't support you. Like, who cares? Like, do it, because those are going to be the same ones that when you're successful, they're going to be coming knocking at your door.
And that's a fact.
Well, and I think we've, even as an entrepreneur, I know that. Okay. I know that. I am so thankful to you, ladies. We will be back in touch. All right. Guests, thank you for coming. To
Absolutely.
my audience, thank you for your support. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to reach out to these ladies. You got lots of thanks, the wealth of information and encouragement, and share the information. Again, thanks for joining Talks with Tanya. I
Thanks for
will be
having
back again real soon. Everybody, remember, stay inspired. Bye bye. Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
me. Good night.
Good night.